As we dive in, I want to give you a fictitious story. Any resemblance to anybody that is merely coincidental this is not intended to speak to anybody in specifically, but these are scenarios that are real, and they do bring out what we are studying together tonight. So Bob and Joyce have been married for 15 years, and they have 2 children together, Stacy and Scott. They're happily married. Bob works for an auto manufacturing plant and is a part-time farmer. Joyce owns a bakery where she spends many early mornings baking, but is free by the afternoon to serve in the church, meet with women in her Bible study, to have the home in order for her husband so he can rest. They were married in college and have enjoyed a sweet and fairly peaceful relationship. Not very passionate people, and if anything, they feel sort of guilty of going through life not having much conflict or difficulty. They roll with the punches. They don't make waves. They just love one another. And in times of conflict, they've always made it through because they've taken their duty seriously. In a word, they're plotters. One day, Joyce gets a call from an old flame from high school. His name is Jeremiah, and his marriage is in trouble. He calls Joyce one day during the slow hours at the bakery, and they talk on the phone for about 2 hours. He pours out his heart with tears and passion, how he tried to make it work, but alas, their relationship is broken irretrievably in his mind. They've grown apart. And then Jeremiah divulges how in love he's truly been with Joyce ever since high school. She's the reason he's not content in his marriage and regrets the day they broke it off. He goes on and on about what he hoped his life would be and how getting out of his marriage would free him up to pursue life to the fullest. He wonders if their friendship could rekindle. He asks her if she is happy in her home, which she is, but just doesn't know what to do except be open and honest about his feelings to someone who knows and cares. Jeremiah asks if they can talk again. Caught off guard, she says yes. She hangs up the phone with her jaw hanging down, wondering what in the world just happened. At first, Joyce is flattered. She enjoys being thought of so kindly by someone with such passion. And then she's scared because she isn't sure she should like it so much. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to tell Bob, 1, because she feels guilty about being excited and the emotions that are churning inside of her. And 2, she fears what Jeremiah won't get the help he needs because she's the only one he will talk to. What should she do? Okay, so there is a short answer. Yeah, that's right, exactly. Throw your phone, block. There is a biblical principle here that's really straightforward, uncomplicated, and clear. You don't fight this, you flee this.
Yeah.
Right.
Refer him to some men.
Yeah.
And she should probably tell her husband and see what they can do to rekindle their romance.
Right. Okay, so 3 things she just said there that are really good. Number 1, should she tell her husband?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right? Why? Well, I mean, it's obvious, but tell me why.
Because the couple should be honest with each other.
That's right. Open and honest before God. That's right. This is their covenant.
Yeah.
Right? Not this guy.
Right.
Right? What was the second thing you said? They should definitely say it, and she should. Oh,
They should talk about what's missing in their relationship and
yeah.
rekindle it.
How can they rekindle and restore? She didn't think something was wrong until perhaps this moment awakened her to something she didn't have. Right? And then you also said that there ought to be perhaps a guy that gets in Jeremiah's life that helps Jeremiah.
My kids, or with any young ladies, don't tell something to a guy that you wouldn't tell everyone.
Yeah, it's good.
Because the minute you share something personal and they understand you, you've entered into a bond that you shouldn't do. And she
There's an
shouldn't
emotional
let it
bond.
go that far. And kind of said, I totally hear you, but let's get some.
How long did they talk?
Too long.
Too long, but 2 hours is way too long. What else did you notice details in here that maybe sent flags up? What did you hear that was also maybe problematic? Just gathering some data here.
Didn't he say at the end, if she doesn't help him, she says something
She's
about
the
that?
only one that can help.
This is a Princess Leia, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope moment, right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
No.
It is not true. That is a deception. It is manipulation.
The guy is engaging in predatory behavior.
Yeah, this is predatory.
Cut him
Yeah.
off right away.
She is a
If
married
I were
woman.
her husband, I would say, you're not talking to him anymore.
Yeah, that'd be like, I'm taking a trip to the bakery.
He stepped over the line as soon
Yeah.
as he told her he still loves her.
Yeah, that's right.
It's over.
Absolutely right. For sure. Absolutely.
And
Good.
he
What else?
probably had a bad marriage and was looking for
Oh, yeah.
affirmation himself.
Well, what do you know about his marriage?
It was not
It's in
wrong.
pieces.
It's in pieces, and it's broken. How broken? Irretrievably broken. So in his mind, it's done. So now he's looking for it. That's what he says, right? Yeah, is that what God says? Yeah, exactly. So what he's presenting and what he's offering is actually very somewhat exciting to her. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. She had an experience where she began to go, I kind of liked that.
You mentioned in the beginning that they were a couple that weren't very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there just wasn't much juice between them as a couple, and that's
Yeah.
where she's vulnerable.
She is vulnerable. This identified an area of vulnerability. Good. Okay, what else? What else either jumped up, or what questions would you want to ask? Let's kind of shift the conversation now to what do you think are some questions? If you're sitting in front of Joyce, what are some good questions?
I would ask why she kept talking to him.
Yep.
Yeah,
When
excellent.
he started telling her these things.
Yeah.
Because getting to the heart of what was she seeking? What
Mhm.
was he feeling?
Yeah.
That's the number one the Lord should be feeling. And
So there's circumstances, and there's wise versus foolish about the circumstance she's in. But you just drew attention to the fact that there's a heart issue. There's something in the heart that was ignited and excited by that we need to get underneath too. It's not like surround yourself with circumstances where you're never vulnerable, right? Although that vulnerability, we got to block that, right? Absolutely. But there's something at the heart level. Okay, what other questions would you ask? And you see what we just did? She just asked a question that surfaced a heart issue. Yeah,
I would say, what is she looking to get out of it?
Yeah.
You know, why are you, okay, you're talking for 2 hours.
right.
What are you looking for? What
Yeah.
are you know you're not supposed to be doing this.
What are some possible answers to that question?
What do you want, well, besides what do you want to get out of this?
Yeah, well,
Like,
what's the answer to the question, what do you want to get out of this? What do you think she might answer?
well, I just want to be there to help him.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a people-pleasing thing.
Smoke
Mhm.
screen.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a compassion side, but there's a lust side, and then there's a fulfillment side.
Right, so there's multiple layers to this, isn't
Yeah.
there? Yeah, it's not just, oh, don't talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
There's something else at the heart level that's present at this moment
Well, I would-
surfaced.
If I was her, I'm like, why did you call me out of the blue?
Yeah.
First of all.
Right,
and-
well, we know why, right?
Yeah,
Because he finally
but-
revealed it.
But then he was up to
But she's a-
What?
refers him to the pastor.
Let me give you my pastor's number.
Just as big.
In fact, he's going to be calling you right now while my husband is loading his gun. Right?
Well, she's encouraging it too, sorry. Lonnie.
Well, she did welcome it.
Yeah.
She didn't refuse it. And when he said, "Can we
That's
talk again?"
upsetting.
she said, "What?"
Yeah.
Now she said, "Was that right for her to say yes?"
No.
Okay, so what would you want to ask her?
Why did
What are
Why'd you
thinking?
do that?
What are you thinking?
Why-
She said it like she said it like unexpectedly or flustered or. But why is that the default? Why is that the habit?
Well, she went there. So there's another people pleasing moment right there. She didn't end it what she should have, which is another concern, right? But also she has not decided in advance what her heart will say yes and no to.
Well, she didn't see it coming either.
She didn't.
She's just like baking her cookies.
Yeah, right.
That's making me think of, because we got married in September, and in December, on my birthday, my ex-husband had called to
Mm,
wish me happy birthday. I don't know if you remember that or not. Out of the blue. okay?
interesting.
And he's like, I just wanted to wish you happy birthday. And I was like, why?
Hmm.
And he's like, oh, well, it's your birthday. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm married.
Yep,
I
right,
have an
Yeah.
amazing husband
Right.
who loves Jesus. I have a son.
right,
You know,
And guns.
all of this, yeah. And thank you.
right.
And, you know, I wish you well. And off the phone.
Yeah,
Good for
And
you.
yeah,
So,
absolutely
I don't know
right.
if you remember that or not.
Don't encourage
And then
it.
I had said, I bet he got divorced, because he had gotten remarried.
Mhm.
And then popped on Facebook to see
Yeah.
he had been.
Right. What's the playing field?
Predator.
Back to that, right? Yep.
So I would ask her if she's had these feelings before.
That's interesting.
So
That's
is this
good.
just a
It's a
one-time
good question.
bubble up, or is this something that is this a pattern in your life?
That's
Have
good.
you felt this before? Did you feel this with your husband?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, why do you think that?
Yeah, that's good.
Just
That's,
ask those probing questions about those feelings.
Well,
Feelings lead
well,
to action.
what happened? You're right. That's absolutely. There's a very quick, rapid descent that and it's a very slippery slope. You know, trying to walk up a water slide to go the opposite direction once you hit, you start going that way. But do you remember what was her dilemma at the end? What was she wrestling with at the end?
Guilt.
Whether I tell her husband. Well, what's the issue problem there?
Because if she's going to continue it, she's not gonna want him to know.
Right, right. So I'm kind of
They
leaving the
also
car
don't
running.
know what's going on in their marriage, where
Mhm.
her husband blamed her for him calling. There might
Mm.
be other things going on too, where maybe there's conflicts there that
Yeah.
could exacerbate, or maybe there's been something that happened between the two of them in the
Mhm.
past. Maybe there's been temptation before.
You'd want to get a little history here
Yeah.
too, right? Absolutely. That would be huge. Very well
She
done.
had talked to him for 2 hours and it was just like, yeah, hey, I'm married, I'm happy, end
Mhm.
of story, but 2 hours.
2 hours
So
long.
not wanting to tell her, how do you explain to your husband, yeah, I just talked to.
Yeah, the guilt for sure is there.
Well, she's doing something behind her husband's back by not telling
Right.
him, so she's being sneaky.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
what she's doing isn't right.
Well, she's being tempted to be sneaky.
Right.
Because this
Well,
happens.
if you're on the phone for 2 hours with an ex, you're being
Sure.
sneaky.
Well, if the husband would have walked in the door, at that
Yeah.
moment, would she have been like, "Oh,
You're hiding
hey,
your phone or you're just like hanging up.
yeah, yeah, let me have you talk to my husband, right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're involved in church.
Yep,
right?
they're involved in church.
So I think just asking her, well, what do you think that God's word says?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of times, if you just ask people who are believers, what do you think the Lord wants you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they do know,
Mm-hmm.
but, and so then
Right.
maybe the word's coming from their mouth, instead
Well-
of you having to tell sometimes.
Well, you
That's a
remember
great question.
she's free in the afternoon. And what does she do in the afternoon? Do you remember? That was early on.
Sure.
She serves in the church. She meets women in her Bible study, and then she has the home ready for her husband. So there's also another word that was used in there on purpose.
Duty,
Duty. You caught it.
and it should be delight.
Delight. Right. So there can there not, vulnerability when you just go through the motions and you do the right thing and you've created an environment that is what you've always wanted.
You kind of almost think I've been in a situation like that.
Well, any resemblances to anybody are merely coincidental and not intentional.
It's also at the end of the day, at the end of that script, she's at a crossroads because she has to make a decision right then.
Right.
There's no hesitating. You have to make a decision right then. Either I tell my husband, which
Mhm.
means I lose all potential for any interaction with this guy, or I keep hiding it, which breaks off certain things with my husband so that I could even have the possibility of the
Mhm.
opportunity with
Mhm.
this guy.
Yeah.
I don't think though that the interaction has to stop if she tells her husband. Because if she's
That's
straight
true.
up honest with her husband,
Yeah.
and she can say to him, but I need to figure out how we still help this guy get this guy help.
Exactly.
So that, just saying that this guy is not gonna get help it's a
Yeah.
lie in itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can
Yeah.
I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
But it's not her responsibility.
Yeah.
God is big enough. The Bible tells us to plead, so that would be my, she's already shown she's been tempted, so wisdom is,
Mhm.
it's not your deal,
Right.
so.
But
Right.
my thought is to tell the husband, but bring the husband in
Yeah.
Right.
to what is going to be the solution, because he's been left out over here on
Right.
the side, and that covenant that they have is broken.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
she's
and,
breaking.
and if he truly wants help, he would be open to the husband, yes?
Or
Right.
anyone that she has said, this
Right.
person will help you.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. You want to put your marriage back together.
Condition that he wants help, he wants her. I mean,
He wants her.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he's wondering, so he's already begun to encroach upon, let me push on this fence to see how firm or soft it is, to see if it falls. Because he does disclose to her what?
That he's interested in her.
He's interested back in
He's
her
pretty honest
specifically.
about that part, even
Yeah.
though she's married.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
after all these years, yeah, she's.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It could be a wake-up call too, because the reality is when your life is kind of drudgery, and a lot of times you just have to do your duty, that can go on for so long that you don't
Yeah.
even realize that something, so it could be like, oh, this is a wake-up call,
Mhm.
that we can address things that have been missing, and that can be hard.
Yeah, for sure. But good for them, right? See, God was sovereign over the fact that that phone rang. God was sovereign over the fact that it happened and surfaced some things in her heart. And so God allowed it to accomplish something in their marriage to make them more like Christ and firmer and stronger.
For sure.
Maybe also just asking her, what do you think you should do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she may then justify it and say, well, I think it would be okay, but then that gives you a little bit more of an understanding of where her heart's at.
Mhm.
Or she could say to you, well, I really do want to get out of this, I just don't know how. Then you know how to kind of direct her.
And that phrase, to find out where her heart's at, is the topic for tonight. That's where we're going, is the issue itself. You have circumstances, you have ideas, you have some solutions, But ultimately, we have to get down to the issue of the heart. So let me ask you one final question, and then I want to go there onto the heart issue. What scriptures would you go to? What verses immediately pop into your mind to go, here would be what begins to inform my response to her?
Anything that comes to the light becomes light.
There it is.
She's got to bring it out to her husband.
That's right.
She's got to speak the truth.
Yep, Ephesians 5. Yeah, that's exactly right. Good. What else? What other scriptures? Jeff?
Review the 10 Commandments.
Number 7 really applies.
Because there's idolatry.
Yeah.
So people engaging in adultery are engaging in idolatry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's also covetousness in there,
Mhm.
and there's also not loving your neighbor and all that stuff is.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
review of the 10 Commandments.
Yep, for sure.
And then if we look at what Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery. So
Mhm.
do you think that would apply to women as well?
Mhm.
So, how do you feel about that?
See, we're back on the heart issue, aren't we? But always heart. Because when you said covetous, I do not covet. You look at the 10 Commandments, the first 9 you can obey outwardly. They're not meant to be obeyed outwardly only, but the 10th you can't obey outwardly at all. You only can evaluate yourself at a heart level. You shall not covet is not something you can outwardly. If you covet, then you steal. Well, now you've broken the 8th commandment. But the 10th commandment is the one that triggered the 8th. So to your point, and that's, by the way, how God set up the 10 commandments to work. Did you know that? When you walk through the 10, you can technically go check, 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 if you're self-righteous, right? You can't do that when you get to number 10. But when you get to number 10, now you look at number 1 the way you just described. I'm the idolater. The God that I have before me is the one that I see in the polished mirror in front of me. And you start going down the use of time, the 4th commandment. The Sabbath has to do with the use of your time. Your time belongs to God. She just gave time to this man. Like all of the commandments, you can walk through and go, okay, I need the Lord in this, and I need it right now. Which is the whole point of the 10 Commandments too, right? Okay, good. What other scriptures might you go to? Yeah.
Take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ.
2 Corinthians 10, right? My thoughts. But where are we doing? We're doing internal now.
Yeah.
It's the internal drive of the person. So what you're going to find is that the scriptures, they take the presenting issue, just like we do when we look at our own hearts or we're trying to help someone. We take the presenting issue and we drive it to the heart level to see what God says there, because that's where the battle is won or lost. Last one.
It's always searched me about that one. Quick answer, but if she is a leader in her church
Yeah.
and teaching other people,
Mhm.
she's undoubtedly instructing, and
Yeah.
then love be without hypocrisy.
That's right.
Because if she's going to go down that road, she's probably
Mhm.
not presenting that to the people
Mhm.
she's leading.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and sometimes a person in a position of leadership and influence, especially if they've been in that role long and they're faithful plotters and they got all the stuff, and I'm teacher to the women, and it can be like I'm a little bit above, maybe impervious too, right? Kind of elevated for that. But search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thought, and see if there be any what? Yeah, in me, and then lead me in the everlasting way.
I
Yeah.
was just thinking that sin is crouching at the door,
Yeah.
waiting to devour.
That's right.
And something you said about her being prepared, I think I used to teach my kids this, you gotta be prepared
That's right.
for stuff.
That's right.
Name it,
So good. Call it out by name.
call it out, and,
Yeah.
and as in marriage,
Mhm.
that is a big one.
Sure.
The
Well,
temptation of
oh yeah.
attention or something.
For sure. Well, and the appeal to her heart. Like, sometimes we give fair names to foul sins, right? And that's part of what going to the 10 Commandments calls it out straight the way God sees it, right? And to confess it, not something I was flattered by. You mentioned the word lust earlier. Those are strong words that God uses to describe it what it is, and we need to see it and expose it, because temptation presents itself to our hearts as what? Always pleasing, always good. She saw that the tree was good for food. She saw that it was a delight to the eyes and desire to make her wise. 3 different ways going, yes, yes, yes. You want to say yes to this, right? This is and it'll kill you.
Well, then I might ask her, how many other men friends do you have?
Yeah, that's a good
Do you
question.
have long conversations with? Because
Yeah.
that right there
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
not really good.
yeah, that was
She
a
should have
major
nipped
flaw.
it right then and
She
there.
should.
I mean,
She should.
it should never even gotten
Exactly.
there
Exactly.
for a solid wife. It's like, no.
Well, and hopefully this is an opportunity for her to learn and grow and to sever it now before it becomes catastrophic, right? And to catch it early. And see, here's where we're going tonight, and this is a great lead into that, Matt, is if you can catch it in here, you can win. If sin Genesis 4:7, sin is crouching at the door and its desire is for you, but you must master it. Do you hear the language of intensity behind that? But if I'm going to master sin, it can't be when sin has already run amok. It's got to be when I feel this pain inside of me where the pull of temptation from my heart wants to reach for it. My heart wants it. Now, if I can win there in that moment, I can win. If I'm only concerned with perfecting the exterior, I'm done. I'm done for. So what I want to do tonight, I want to take you through a study on the heart. This is probably going to be the most essential of all the studies that we do tonight. It's also the most simple. So you and I will never, ever, ever get past this, and this will set the table for all the conversations we're going to have going forward. Because when it talks about going God's way, when we say we want to help people to truly grow and truly change, which means we have to, what? Truly grow and truly change, right? That means we're going to have to deal with sin at the level where it starts. And that's, of course, at the heart level. Now, when you hear me use the word heart, I don't mean the physical muscle beating in your chest. Give me a biblical description of the heart as you understand it from God's word. Okay. Thank you, King James. Yeah, your bowels. Yeah, for sure. Well, to your point, there are times where sometimes it'll even translate at your kidneys, where it's the seat of your emotions. That is one very, very accurate description of the heart. It's the seat of your emotions, but it's not emotions only, right? Because you know the proverb that says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. It's also where your thoughts lodge, right? I saw another hand, yeah. Yeah, it's who you really are. It's who you are at the core of your being. Sometimes we like to say it's the part of you can't fake. It's the real you. It's who you are in the dark. It's where your desires, your emotions, and your thoughts all converge, ready, to drive your will, okay? It's where your thoughts, it's where your emotions, and where your desires converge to drive your will.
It's where your treasure is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Jesus said that in Matthew 6, right? Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So it's your desire factory. If you want a more military strategic definition, it's mission control central. It's the central command of your life. Everything that you do comes directly out of your heart. There's not one thing that we do that doesn't. So we do what we do as the result of our heart. So what that means is the external actions are only a picture of what's going on in our hearts. So do this for me. Let's go to Proverbs. You have these verses listed here for you. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. The book of Proverbs speaks about the heart so thoroughly. In fact, one of the verses that you have on your page, Proverbs 23, 6 through 8, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That's one that we've already kind of called out. Could I get somebody please to read Proverbs 4, verse 23? Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. There's a command there. What's the command?
Guard.
Guard your heart.
Guard, watch over. The idea is protect, right? Protect your heart. So, and again, we're not talking about the muscle pumping blood through your body, but what a great metaphor to say what happens in your life spiritually is coming out of one centralized foundational place. So the command is guard this, protect this, watch over this. And the reason is, what's the reason? You read it. Say it again. Watch over your heart with all diligence, which means what? Like always, 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 never stopping. Yeah, be on point, totally. Keep going. For
from it flow the springs of life.
From it flow the springs of life. Excellent. So if I were to illustrate what Solomon is saying right here in a very, very crude, very, very primitive kind of way, I'm channeling my inner R.C. Sproul right now. Proverbs 4:23 is saying that if there's something going on in your heart, it's going to show up where? It's going to show up in your life, right? So whatever's happening in here is going to show up here. This is where I'm typically going to see it unless I'm looking at my heart, unless I'm in touch with what are my desires and what is my will being led to do through my emotions and my thoughts. But if there's a problem out here, it's a reflection of what? It's in here, right? So the bigger issue is here. Now, what Solomon is saying, and this is really, really helpful that he'd frame it to us this way. This is very simple. If this heart feeds this area of my life and this is a problem, then the problem isn't here, so it's not solved here. If I was sitting on a thumbtack right now and I was like, hey, Adam, real quick, do you have some ibuprofen? Because this thumbtack really, really hurts. You would say to me, I got another thumbtack. Right, exactly. Yeah, you would do that actually, for sure. You would say, I can give you ibuprofen, however, that's only going to address the symptom. It's not going to identify and address the source, right? We're after the root. Sometimes you'll see, I still have to get off the tack. Yeah, get off the tack. Well, that would be here. Remove the source of the problem, and the pain will go away. So often what we do is we say, this presenting issue is bothering me. How do I make the pain of sin rather than the source of sin go away? Now here's, to take Solomon's illustration one step further, the same heart that feeds this area also feeds this area and is going to result in problems here. And it feeds this area. And it's going to result in problems here, and it's going to feed this area. Oh yeah, and this area right here. Now you got two choices in your life as a Christian. You can play whack-a-mole with the areas in your life. How's that working for you? All right? You ever slept on a waterbed? Remember in the 80s and early 90s when the waterbed was a thing? Anybody ever not slept on a waterbed before? You're a liar. It's like a waterbed? That's a thing? I want to look into that. When you push down on one side, what happens? The side pops up. If you spend all your time going, in my marriage, I'm going to address this. Well, the problem is the heart that fed this, when I push down on this, it's still showing up in all these other different places. So I have one of two choices. I can play whack-a-mole with my Christianity, exhausting myself, chasing behavioral outward conformity, or I can address the issue here. So what happens if I address it here? It goes away here. So do you remember when 9/11 happened? Were you alive then? You weren't alive then. Were you alive then? No. Okay. All right. We are old, people. We are old. The Department of Water and Power received a threat. There was a concern that the DWP would have poison entered into the reservoir of the water in New York City. What's the threat, truly, if that happens? If that central hub is penetrated? Every faucet that it serves in New York City is going to pump out poison. That's the picture. So Solomon is actually really helping us big time here. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. So that's why, number one, you have here on this handout just a very simple principle. The heart is who you really are. The heart is who you really are. Sometimes we like to say the heart is who you are in the dark. The heart is who you are when no one is looking. But this is really, really critical. When we sin, my heart is reaching out, maybe through my eyes, to sin. My heart is reaching out through my mouth to sin. Remember Jesus said, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? Maybe I'm reaching out with my hand to do something sinful. Maybe this is intimate parts. Maybe this is when my children do something wrong and I scream at them. See, the issue is always, always, always only the heart. Yeah.
And it's funny because you were talking about the tack analogy, but I think if your heart is messed up, if your heart isn't in Christ, you justify what you're doing.
Man, you nailed it. Did you hear that? If your heart's not in Christ, well, if we're not in Christ, the heart is in what state? Well, not only it justifies, but the heart is what? If I'm apart from Christ, my heart is, well, it's dead, right? If a person's outside of Christ, right? If they're lost, they have a hard, stony heart, right? Ezekiel 36 says they have to have a stony heart removed and a new living, beating heart put in them, to carry that analogy all the way through, right? So a heart that actually is alive, right? A living, beating heart. Now, is it possible that my heart can get calluses on it? Yeah. Is it possible that I start justifying certain things? Well, even though this hurts, maybe that ibuprofen will give me the ability to numb myself from that. What are some things that we use to numb the pain of sin so that we keep doing it? More sin, right? Yeah, for sure. Romans 1, we suppress the truth and unrighteousness. What else?
Friends that won't correct us and admonish us.
People that tell us what we want to hear. They won't tell us the truth, right? How hard is it to say the hard thing to somebody so that they don't have a hard heart? Remember, Nathan had to be that for David? He had to cold cock David. Proverbs says, better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. I could smother your face with kisses. Mwah, 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 Jeffrey. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh, I love you, Jeffrey. And not tell you what you need. I'm not helping you. I'm your enemy if I do that. That's strong language. And there'll be plenty of enemies to say, your hard heart is just fine. You can relax in your sin. But what's the problem? What's the problem with my heart if I don't address it here? And I'm kind of illustrating it with my marker. It's getting worse. The problem's getting larger, and I'm enslaved and overrun. So this is so critical, is it not? That if we deal with it here, we've resolved it. Now I don't want to suggest to you that that's always easy, right? Because Jeremiah 17:9, it's a verse that's not on your handout tonight, but Kathy can quote it to us because she's nodding. Kathy, what's it say? You don't know? All right. Yeah. The heart of man is deceitful above all else and desperately wicked. And then he says, and who can know it? And then he answers in verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart and the minds. So what's interesting is we don't, apart from his help, even truly understand the condition of our hearts. I could actually be self-deceived thinking I'm doing what's right, and I'm actually doing what's wrong because my heart is inclined and biased towards sin and in my own favor away from God's accountability. And so now the issue becomes, number 2 on our list, the heart is what God sees. The heart is what God sees. Would somebody please read 1 Samuel 16:7? Although I bet you could probably quote this verse if you hear it started. 1 Samuel 16:7. The context, by the way, is Samuel coming to anoint David. And David got passed over as the potential future king of Israel because he's just a little guy. Didn't even get invited. Didn't get an invite to the party, right? But 1 Samuel 16:7, does somebody have it? Can they read it for me? Yeah, go ahead, Ross.
But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For God sees not a man as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart.
See that?
That's cool.
The man looks at the outside. Now, if I want to be a Pharisee and I want to concentrate on what man sees, what might I do? What are some things I might do with my actions? Like if I'm more focused on what man thinks than what God thinks. Yeah, right. So that's what the Pharisees did, right? Hey, everybody, I'm giving $1 today, but I broke it all into pennies so I can drop it. And it makes a lot of loud noise in the yeah. Oh, it's so hard to fast, right? They practice their righteousness, Jesus says, right? They practice their righteousness to be noticed by men. Why do they do that? You know what's insidious about self-righteousness and Phariseeism is I need people to give me what my conscience won't.
Now that you mention that, I was just thinking of the book came to mind, The Joy of a Good Conscience, or Clear Conscience by Christopher Ashe. And the whole idea, even if you're wrong, if your conscience thinks you're doing something wrong, just go make it right.
Yeah,
and I
that's
remember
right.
trying to study this in 4th grade, and something had happened, and she told the teacher about it, and the teacher said, oh, well, now that you told me, it was some minor thing like she's talked when she wasn't supposed to. And then she said, no, I want a punishment.
Really?
My conscience is safe.
Because the conscience really.
Yeah.
See, to desire a tender conscience. And the conscience is what? How's it different than the heart? Because the conscience has been part of the conversation, and it's a very relevant part of the conversation. What is the conscience different than the
The
heart?
heart desires, the conscience warns.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the conscience will both warn.
Accuses.
Yeah, it'll excuse and
And
accuse.
then it's informed as we start to read God's word. Our
Yep.
conscience should be better informed.
That's right.
Because you can have a clear conscience and have a bad conscience.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this for just a minute because this affects your heart. When your heart does wrong, God has given you an internal alarm system. You have a smoke alarm? Is there a smoke alarm in here? Where's the smoke alarm?
Right there.
She already knew where it was. That's pretty impressive. So it has the green light on, so it tells me it's working. Its purpose is to inform you if there is a fire. What happens is that ever gone off when you're cooking bacon? Well, you don't cook bacon. Has there anything gone off when you cook bacon?
Oh, yeah, I've set it off.
Yeah. So let's suppose that this alarm system, like it's quiet now, everything is good. Your conscience is like that. If everything's going good, it's not alarming you, it's actually encouraging you. You ever done something and you feel amazing afterwards when you serve somebody and you felt great? That's your conscience going, that was right. You ever felt shame and disgust when you did something wrong? That's it not only chirping at you, that's it screaming at you. So you have one of two choices. Go to the source that is sending the smoke to the smoke alarm and resolve it at the source. Or second option, well, you could ignore it, but pull it out of the wall, right? I take the battery out. Now, let's suppose I have sitting on my countertop my smoke alarm with the wires now dangling and the battery missing. I don't have any chirping in my ear now. Relief. My house is burning down. That's exactly right. And if I'm just cooking bacon and there's no problem, and I go to bed tonight and it's still sitting on the counter, and my house burns down, I don't have the alarm. So our alarm system is designed to warn us internally that our heart is reaching for something that's forbidden by God. And so to your point, Pam, when you're in the scriptures and you're calibrating your conscience with the word of God, now you know, and it goes off when it's supposed to. And your heart, which goes, you know what, I think I might stretch out tonight. Your conscience goes, nope, 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 nope. Warning, danger. Remember the 70s show? Were you born then? Danger, warning, danger. Will Robinson. Remember that? Absolutely. Lost in space. Yes, thank you. I'm not the only one. So us having tenderness there, us having a place where we feel sin's nearness before our heart, which is inclined to reach for it, can go there. So if I perfect the outside, if I'm concentrating not on heart work, but I'm concentrating on appeasing and pleasing people, what's going to happen to my heart? It's going to get harder and harder and harder, callous, 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 because now righteousness to me is a matter of committing a sin that is now looked upon by you as problematic, right? Not whether God is watching when nobody else is, right? There's a verse in the Bible, it's not in our list, but it comes to mind, Ecclesiastes 7. Can we look at it real quick? Just speaking about self-righteousness. Because, now think about this, I could go back to Joyce, remember the case study? I could go back to Joyce and I could give Joyce all kinds of rules to follow that are meant to be safeguards. Well, you don't talk to a man for 2 hours. Okay, so she never talks to another man again. Does that mean her heart has changed? No. It does not. There's certain things that I could build into my practices that are best practices that deter me from sin. But if I don't deal with the heart, then I'm a casualty waiting to happen. So in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, there's a verse that when you first read it, you're like, this is in the Bible? This is in the Holy Bible? Like, I did not see this coming. Maybe you know and have had the same challenge that I had when I first read it. Look at verse 16. It says this, do not be excessively righteous and do not be overly wise. Why should you ruin yourself? Do not be excessively wicked, and do not be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Okay, stop there. When you first read that, what are some possible conclusions you could reach that you probably suspect right now aren't what it means?
God doesn't really care about perfection.
Yeah, God doesn't care about perfection, holiness, righteousness. There's righteousness and there's wickedness. Pick a spot in the middle.
Could be self-righteousness.
Okay.
Because you're obsessed with being righteous or obsessed with being wise.
Yeah,
so you're wearing yourself out.
Yeah, so he's on to something that kind of goes back to this whack-a-mole analogy right here. If I, in my understanding of righteousness, believe that I can reach this place where I'll never sin again. I'm so righteous, I'll never sin again. Well, you're going to last about 30 seconds, max, right? Max, Not that maximum. Before you go, that's a hopeless endeavor. So there's the kind of righteousness that I'm going to change this time, and it's going to be just different, and I vow, and I promise, and I'll never, and then you did.
Yeah, and then usually you start criticizing others.
Right. Okay. Then we change the definition of righteousness from an internal to an external. Can you perfect the exterior? Can you paint a nice, beautiful facade?
It's called
A whitewashed tomb, about which Jesus had much to say, right? Outwardly, you appear righteous before men, but inwardly, he said, you are full of dead men's bones, right? Beautiful. And the reason that they decorated them, they whitewashed them so that you could see it in the sun. In case you touched one, you'd be unclean, right? So let's just make sure nobody can get near it to touch it because it's so visible and obvious. That's what you guys, you think you're so far away from sin, but inwardly you're so rotten and corrupt. Okay, so look back at this. There's a kind of righteousness that's either so unrealistic that you're going to die trying, playing whack-a-mole and exhaust yourself, or you'll so perfect the exterior that you forget about the heart and you'll lose your way. You know why context is important? Look at verse 20. In the context of his argument, he says, indeed, there is not a righteous man on earth who continually does good and never sins. If you don't factor into your margin of expectations and sanctification that you're going to sin, you're going to kill yourself. And if you don't deal with sin internally, the only option left to you is an external shell of a religion that actually doesn't need a savior, where you are exalted and men give you what your conscience won't, and your heart gets so hard you lose your way. So that's why this heart conversation is really a critical one. Okay, so the heart is who we really are. The heart is what God sees. Let's go here to number 3. The heart is what drives our actions. I'd like us all to look at Ezekiel. You probably know where this is going. Ezekiel chapter 14. Ezekiel is speaking to who? Do you guys know who Ezekiel is written to? It's actually written to the exiles. So the northern kingdom got wiped out because of their sin and idolatry, right? Talk about the Ten Commandments breaking. The southern kingdom didn't last much longer. They got wiped out by God, and they are taken away into captivity into what country? Babylon. Yeah, exactly. Babylon swallows them up. And Ezekiel, who was he prepared his whole life to be a priest, now realizes God's called him to be a prophet. And in chapter 14, God does something with Ezekiel that you got to see this. You just got to see what God says here. Some of the elders of Israel came to me and sat down before me. Now, just so you know, the elders of Israel are part of the biggest problem. They are the reason why Israel is in captivity. Ezekiel was like, you're calling me to be a prophet? Forget it. Forget it. There's no way I want to do this. To be a prophet in this hard-hearted people, he goes, don't worry, I've made your head and your skin super hard because you're going to need it. And you're going to tell them whether they're this or not. So these are people who are coming to sit down to talk to Ezekiel because he's God's voice. And so they sit down in front of Ezekiel, and verse 2 says, the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their hearts. Okay, this is a critical verse for us. They have set up idols in their hearts. You say, wait a minute. They had set up idols in the temple, as we will see. And what God's going to do is grab Ezekiel by the hair, transport him back to Jerusalem, and walk him through this devastated temple and show him where all the idols are. Do you see what they've done? In the place where I deserve glory, they have set up idols. But you know what the real problem is? Their hearts, John Calvin said, are an idol factory. So, son of man, these men have set up their idols in their hearts and have put right before their faces the stumbling block of their iniquity. What do you think that means? They've put right before their faces the stumbling block.
Well, they're probably patting each other on the back saying, you're such a good guy, and I'm such a good guy, and we're such good guys.
Right. So what are we doing here, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, a stumbling block right in front of you means you're about to do what? Well, you're about to trip over it and fall, right? So this is how foolish a heart filled with idols is the very thing in front of me that's about to make me stumble, fall, and splat is the thing I think is good for me. Right in front of me is the thing that will destroy me. It will make me collapse and fall, right? And so he asks at the end of verse 3, should I be consulted by them at all? They're coming to you because they want to hear from me. Do you think I should give them an answer? They're still not only pumping out idols. Remember Lucille Ball's big chocolate line, assembly line thing like that? They're just churning out faster than they could possibly go. Therefore, verse 4, speak to them and tell them, thus says the Lord God, any man of the house of Israel who sets up idols in his heart, puts right before his face the stumbling block of his iniquity, and then comes to the prophet, I, the Lord, will be brought to give an answer in the manner in view of the multitude of his idols, in order to lay hold of the hearts of the house of Israel who are estranged from me through their idols. In other words, the only thing you're ever going to hear from me is what's necessary for you to remove the idolatry. And if you don't remove the idolatry, the only message you're going to get from me is the consequence of your idolatry. I want the idols removed from your heart.
Justin, so every time you say idols, I keep thinking about like trinkets and stuff.
Yeah,
like
totally.
that.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. Now, have you ever seen, sometimes I'll bring these to church. I should have probably brought it tonight. But have you seen the idol that I got from India that I sometimes bring? Have you seen it? It's a little, probably 8-inch tall statue. It's not that big. They did sell those. But I figured better not to bring that in my suitcase, back home. Ganesh is the idol of choice in India. Well, it's half elephant. It's half elephant and half, do you know? Yeah, boy, specifically. Here's the story of the trinket. So, and this is exactly what's happening. And so you asked the right question, Matt. What happens is the way that the fable goes of Ganesh is that he was a little god boy, and one day he walked into his parents' bedroom when the door wasn't locked, and it probably should have been, and he saw his parents having divine celestial intercourse. He freaked out, and the dad got angry. And so the dad god chases the boy god into the forest and decapitates him. Yeah, there's a lot of drama in the idols. Yeah, it's a natural reaction. I'm going to kill my son, and I'm going to cut his head off. The mom freaked out. Everybody's been freaked out. The mom freaks out and runs to the animals of the forest and says, are any of you willing to give up your head so that my boy might live? And the elephant stepped forward and said, you can have my head. That's how I imagine elephant if he could talk. So the elephant's head was divinely removed and placed on the boy god. So now you have Ganesh, whose life was spared, and he travels the universe at high rates of speed, riding on a rat. On a rat, because there's a lot of rats in India, and they're really fast. So what they believe, actually, is that god, here's how it connects. You're like, how stupid is that? Yeah. Right? So here's what they do. They take the idol, and they imagine this being the size, a little bit larger than this. They take the idol, they put it on a table, and they wrap flowers around it like a lei you would get in Hawaii. They put food in front of it. They light candles. They burn incense. They ring bells. They bow. They genuflect in front of the idol, not because they believe the little statuette has any power. The little statuette is the emblem of the invisible deity that's watching from the cosmos. And what happens is the idols derive their power from their fan base. It's kind of like the blue check on Instagram and Twitter. Like if you got the blue check, you're kind of up there. There's 110 million gods in Hinduism. 110 million. Most families have several hundred. But this Ganesh is the god of prosperity. So if you are wanting, and this is exactly how it works. I spoke to them in India about this. They said, this is how it works. If I have a job interview on Tuesday, I will say to the deity through the idol, you better give me that job because of all that I've done for you, or else I'll find another god. It's a way of manipulating the deity. And it's still, the problem is, it's at the heart of our desires. This is what I want. So I have found in my sin, are you ready? Here's the heart of idolatry. I have found in my sin a way to domesticate God to give me what I want. It's desire. I found a way to domesticate God to give me what I want. Now, we can be guilty of this too sometimes in our prayers, right? The things that we desire. So to Calvin's point earlier, I have a little baby elephant riding on a rat in my heart, and he's fast, I will tell you that. And here's how you know an idol. Are you ready when it comes to desire? I depend on it to be happy. I will sin to get it, or I will sin if I don't get it. That's how you know an idol. I depend on it for my happiness. Okay? This is something really, really key to write down. I depend on it for my happiness. And I will sin to get it, or I will sin if I don't get it. And I'll sin to keep it. That's exactly right. For sure. For sure. It's at its base a deep, determined love of self. And my own self-love, which is, by the way, at the heart of every sin. At the heart of every sin is self-love. We're told in our culture right now you can't actually love God and love others unless you learn to love yourself. That's garbage. That's garbage, right? Loving ourselves is the problem, actually. It's when we say the love your neighbor as yourself, whatever I would normally give to myself, which I have no problem thinking of exactly what that would look like, give it away. That's what Jesus defines as love. So the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is self-love. Because true love says, I'm going to give the greatest thing I have at the greatest cost to myself to you, with great sacrifice and devotion and unswerving commitment to always do what is in your best interest. That's the truest definition of love. But if I depend on it to be happy, now my heart is simply saying constantly, I want to be happy. Oh, look, through my eyes, I just saw something that will make me happy. With my hands, I just felt something that will make me happy, right? So, 30 seconds. That's so cute.
She didn't know who to call, but I just saw something. Will you pray for me? So let me see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm post together. Grab me at the end if it is.
A difficult encounter with one of her friends. I hope I said everything right.
Okay. All right. Okay, so a couple things. At the break, Max said something I thought was really, really helpful that I wanted to let him have the opportunity to say. He was talking about, the category is this. There are certain things in our life. Are we going? Okay, so I just messed it up. One of the things that Max was saying is that there's certain categories in our lives of things that aren't in and of themselves sinful, but they could create temptations for us where idolatry is present. Where something that's very good and normally fine, if our heart is wandering in that moment, that's a problem that we need to pay attention to, but we don't want to go to the flip side and say, well, then I need to be suspicious of every single thing that I ever do, and I'm always like getting this morose, myopic view that makes me lose the joy of my salvation. Max had a really helpful example. You want to share that?
Yeah, well, so I asked Justin, because one of the things you said, I wrote it down, was my happiness depends on if I have it. And so I've had this injury in my trap rhomboid area for years now, probably like 6 years. And when I work out, it's just kind of just there, but then I'll have a flare up where it puts me out for like a week. And it's frustrating when you're trying to hit certain goals. And so I just thought to myself, like, man, like, is this, because I get unhappy, and so I'm like, if my happiness depends on if I get better, like, is that wrong? And so I proposed that to Justin, and I just was like, I basically said, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's okay to be like unhappy, but then I proceed forward in the joy of the Lord. Like it's okay to have that emotion, but I'm not dwelling there, staying there, and my life is now on that trajectory of staying unhappy.
Yeah, it does. And frame it this way, because it's really, really a helpful question, isn't it? Is it wrong to desire good health? No. Is it wrong to desire a pain-free, unlimited range of motion? Is that wrong? No. It's not. But if you don't get it, can you sin? Yeah. Well, should you sin? Yeah, never, ever, right? Yeah. You can sin, right? But so desiring something that is good and God-given, for which we celebrate, can become, in our hearts, a source of evil. It can create a temptation. So pressure on our hearts will ultimately reveal where we're at, right? So that's what we're after.
All things are lawful, but not all things are helpful.
It's great. Awesome. Well said.
And it
Well
can be
said.
very hard when you're longing for something that God says you should want.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
God doesn't get it. And I have a couple texts that I can respond to on the way home. Of
Sure.
a broken heart for something that somebody really wanted that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And to hold those things to the, well, even before the break, you had reminded us Psalm 84:11. No good thing does he withhold from them who walk uprightly. So it could be that God's not giving it to me because he doesn't want to bless my crookedness.
Or maybe it's
Right.
going to come a little later. Maybe it's just not right now.
Right. Or maybe right now, that's the key. It's not good for me. I think it's good. Now, my kids think cupcakes are good for breakfast every day. Right? That is not good for them. Are cupcakes good? Yes. Are they good every day? No. But something that is good, is it right to desire to be married if you're single? Yeah, absolutely. Is it okay to sin if you don't? No. So there's a series of things. Are you pointing at Elijah because he's single?
He had his hand. Yeah, but
Oh, okay. Sorry.
his hand was up.
Oh, yes.
Just about like things that are not particularly sinful, but they're not good for you or not wise. Just reminds me of Solomon with 699 extra wives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where
Yeah.
it wasn't specifically like against the law to have multiple wives, but like there were so many warnings against it, and it was so destructive.
Yeah.
And he chose to do it anyway. And the specific command was, if you do this, you will fall into idolatry.
Right.
And he did it, and he fell
Did.
into idolatry.
Well, and it does say in the Old Testament for the kings to not multiply wives to themselves.
Oh, yeah,
So that was a
that's true.
sin, straight
That's
up,
right.
for him. But to the point is that there is a slippery slope that once you're on, sometimes it's very hard to get off. If you make concessions and accommodations and hollow out your character by foolishness, what's so funny?
After the first 300, he was like, why stop now?
Why stop now? I got 300. Yeah, kind of. Kind of.
Laying
Yeah.
aside the weights. and
Yeah.
so they do the sets. The weights aren't
Yeah.
just things that
Mhm.
like Bob was saying,
Yeah.
when they do that
Hebrews
aren't
12.
necessarily bad.
Yeah, the comment was in Hebrews 12 when he says, let us lay aside the encumbrances or weights and the sin that so easily entangles us. When you see a runner, they're running in shorts that weigh, an ounce and show everything. But they don't want any kind of distraction, right? Holding the hinder back. Those are things that aren't necessarily sins, but they slow you down. Right, so paying attention to those in our heart is, but see how heart work is so important. If you're really striving there, you're not going to be enslaved over here. If you're winning the battle at the heart level, where it's really fought, you're going to grow and you're going to find that the power of sin doesn't have its hold on you. Now, there is a passage I want to show you. I'm going to leave some of these for you to look up on your own, so I'm going to kind of give us some critical ones now. Mark 7, though, I want us to all see this. This is where Jesus takes Solomon's statement one step further. Mark chapter 7. Now, let me give you the context. In Mark chapter 7, Jesus is being chided by the Pharisees because his disciples don't wash their hands before they eat. Now, it's not cleanliness is next to godliness. It's ceremonial cleanliness. They believe that in order to truly be pure, they have to go through this long, elaborate washing. I'll show it to you. Somebody read starting here. Let's see in verse 20. Elijah, you want to do it 20 through 23, please?
And he was saying, that which proceeds out of the man, that is what defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed the evil thoughts, fornications, thefts, murders, adulteries, deeds of coveting, and wickedness, as well as deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things proceed from within and defile the man.
So the heart is the issue. And he gives a massive grocery list, doesn't he, of all kinds of sins, and they all flow out of the heart. Now, this is in contrast, if you go back, look earlier in verse 14 and 15, this was the Pharisees' definition of uncleanness. Let's suppose that you're going through life and you accidentally touch something unclean. Or did you know that a fly was unclean? Let's suppose that a fly lands on you. You're unclean. And let's say you go to sit down and eat. You don't wash your hands. You don't go through this ceremonial purification ritual. You touch the chicken wing with the hand that the fly landed on. Now the chicken wing is unclean. You eat the chicken wing. You're internally unclean. Jesus is like, are you kidding me? You think that's where uncleanness comes from you? Uncleanness doesn't come, and this is the material point. Uncleanness doesn't come as a result of something that goes into you. Uncleanness is a matter of what comes out of you. Now, let me tell you why that's important, to go back to Solomon's statement here. What Jesus is saying is all this awful grocery list of sins do not come as a result of things external, okay? They come as a result of things internal. It is merely these external factors that press on you to reveal what's inside. You ever go to the sink with a sponge? Sponge is wet. Whatever was on the inside, what? When you squeeze it, comes out. You know, if this, Pam, what's inside? Water. Okay, so if I spill it on you, what's going to spill out?
Water.
Okay, so let's suppose this is a Diet Coke, which it should be, and I spill it on you, what's going to roll out?
Diet Coke.
Yeah, okay, so let's say this is my heart, and my heart is filled with wickedness, folly, coveting, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness, and it spills. Well, all that's going to come out. Where was it first? It was always here. So it's not the fact that I got bumped that's the problem. The fact that it got bumped by externals simply revealed what was already inside. So sometimes, and this is why it's important, sometimes what happens is when something difficult happens in our life and we sin, we want to blame what? Somebody else or the circumstance. And if that circumstance didn't happen or that person didn't do that, then I wouldn't have done this. So I'm going to live my life in such a way that those circumstances don't happen, and I'm going to cut that person out of my life, or I'm going to accuse them and gaslight them and blame them and attack them to make them feel awful for what they did because they're really responsible for my sin.
Well,
Incorrect.
Isn't that also kind of a mercy that God puts us in situations so that we can find out and then we can repent? How do
That's right.
we grow?
That's exactly right. These situations are designed to reveal.
So those things are outside pressures.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the what you said about the sponge, because I think about when I go to the sponge, go with the sponge to the sink after cleaning, and the sponge looks just wet. It just looks like a sponge, but you squeeze it and brown water comes out.
Right.
And so, but the squeezing is a pressure. So I like the sponge
Yes.
idea because it's not until the pressure comes in and pushes on you that you see what's inside comes out.
Let me show you an example of this that we'll end with this tonight. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Deuteronomy chapter 8. There's more verses here that we could look at. In fact, if you look at number 4, this is what God's going to judge, by the way. If this is what God sees, this is what God judges. Romans 2:16, God will judge the intentions of our heart. But here in number 5, the heart is what will change the whole person. You change the heart, you change the whole person. Jesus said, you clean the inside of the cup, the outside of the cup's going to get clean too, right? But Deuteronomy chapter 8 is a perfect example of this very thing. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, by the way, who's the author of Deuteronomy? Moses, and this happens to be Moses speaking. Thank you. And Moses, by the way, Deuteronomy is the second giving a law. In fact, that's what Deuteronomy means. Deutero, to Namas, law. It's the second time God gave the 10 Commandments. Why? Because he's not giving it to the generation that came out of Egypt. He's giving it to the generation whose parents died in the wilderness. Okay? That's really important. I'll show you why. Look at verse 1. He says, and by the way, he's going to die in a few chapters, all the commandments that I am commanding you today, you should be careful to do, so that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to give to your forefathers. Okay, stop there real quick. What's the purpose of the commands according to this? To berate you, tell you how awful you are. So you live and multiply. This is blessing. This is flourishing. This is so that you would know the life that God made you. It's a life you're going to love. Verse 2. You shall remember all the way which the Lord your God has led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. Okay, this is really crazy good. Now, it says here, you got to remember, and their memory is going to stretch back in some of their cases. How far? 40 years. They were in where for 40 years? Wilderness. Describe a wilderness for me. And by the way, Arizona, where we live, is not that. You think this is a desert? Take you to the wilderness they were? You're like, wow, Arizona is like an oasis. It's paradise, yeah. Tell me what a wilderness is like.
Was it like Sahara? I don't know.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much like that. Yeah.
Just go to northern Nevada and you'll see it.
Wasteland. Wasteland. That is true. Yeah, that is true. What's in a wilderness? Or what should we say is not in a wilderness? It's desolate and there's not water. You kind of need that to survive. There's not vegetation, so there's a lack of, starts with F and ends with ood. That's right. There's a lack of food. There's no shade. There's no shelter. What's it like during the day? Hot, hot, hot. What's it like at night? Cold. So it's interesting. When God, and God, he was a what by day? Cloud protecting them, wasn't he? What was he by night? Divine heat lamp. So God protected them all this time. And what did they eat, by the way, the whole time they were there? Manna. Now, what is manna? Well, it's on quite glazed donuts. It would have been awesome if it was Krispy Kreme. You ever had Wheaties? Yeah, Wheaties. With just like a touch of honey. It'd be like, that's what you're going to eat every single meal of every single day. 3 meals a day. You got your phone. Can you pull it out and do a little math for me? Whiz kid, Doogie Howser, can you pull out your you know who Doogie Howser is? Yeah, right, absolutely. So I want you to do 365 times 40 times how many meals a day? Let's give them 3. They skipped Saturday, but they got to collect it.
But they collected enough the day before.
Yeah, so they could eat still on Saturday. Okay, so how many meals, apart from a couple quail burgers, did they eat?
43,800.
So 43,800 times minus an afternoon of quail so much that it was running out of your nose, God said. That's a lot of manna burgers. You got manna burgers, manna cotti, manna spaghetti, manna in and out. You know, I mean, it's like, you got one, some of you are really good cooks. You got one ingredient. You got one. It's like, what do I do with all this? Yeah, right? Okay, so that's interesting. So for 40 years you ate manna. He's going to talk about manna in verse 3. And he says, you don't even know what it is, he said. That's pretty irritating, I would say. And what else is in the wilderness? Later on, and I think it's verse 15, it says there were fiery serpents. There were wild beasts. This wasn't a pleasant place.
Go back to Egypt.
That's why they wanted to go back to Egypt. I missed onions and leeks, whatever a leek is.
So good.
Now, why were they there? This is the critical question. When?
Well, God told them to go into the promised land, and they thought the giants were too big and were going to eat like grasshoppers.
Okay, so we are like grasshoppers in our own eyes, they said. Now, that's an interesting conversation of its own. We're grasshoppers in our own eyes. We're going to die. God led us out of Egypt, destroyed the world's superpower, but he can't take care of a couple of giants. He promised us this was we our land, but no, we're actually going to stone Moses and Aaron. And we're going back to slavery. God says, party's over, out of the pool. For every day the spies were in the land spying it out, you're going to do donuts in the wilderness. You're going to do a circle. 40 days, now you're going to spend 40 years. And what was the purpose of 40 years? So that who would die? That generation. Everybody over, do you remember the age? 20. Everybody who's 20 years and older is going to drop dead. You're going to croak here. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to start over with a brand new generation of people and give them the opportunity to trust me. Why is that important? Here it is. This is such a big aha moment. This is how God's word is so relevant. These people that Moses is speaking to today were not the people that sinned. They were people that suffered the results of somebody else's sin. And for 40 years, God was doing something in their hearts that they needed if they were going to go forward into the promised land. Now, look back at verse 2 with that in mind. You shall remember all the ways which the Lord your God has led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that he might, first thing, humble you, big God, little me, okay? Get low. And that he might test you to know what was in your heart. Time out. Doesn't God already know what's in our hearts? Why the test? Say it again. He had to show them. What God does with this pressure is reveal what's already inside so that we can see it. We humble ourselves under him. We get to look at what he sees and has seen about us, and we get to make it right with him. And then we get to line up our hearts under him. In verse 3, he's going to say, to learn that we don't live on bread alone, but every word that comes out of his mouth, and we go do it. So God is big enough. Here's the big finish for tonight. God is big enough to even use somebody else's horrific, catastrophic sin to still make me what he wants me to be. If I am after the heart, I can change. And God, by his grace, will use all of those things to bring me into greater likeness to Christ. If I resist that and I remove all these pressures and I chase around all the externals, I'll lose my way and my heart will stay hard. So may it be that God always gives us a tender heart. Amen. Can we pray even now to that end? All right, Lord, thank you just for tonight. Thank you for just what is such a critical conversation. But even I know, Lord, even as I'm saying these words and as I look over this room, I know that there are many who, through the difficulties and the dangers and the fears and the traps and the hurts and the betrayals, Lord, there have been so many things that we have faced and encountered. And each one of those has been an opportunity for you to surface out of us what we needed to see. And right there you did your work. And right there you cleansed. And right there you purged. And right there you transformed and renewed. And we would just pray that that process would be ever true, ever present for us. And Father, even if there's anything tonight that this has surfaced about our hearts, or as we keep watch over our hearts this week, may it be that we feel even the most subtle approach of sin and temptations, our hearts responding with a longing to honor you. What Paul said in Romans 6, I pray over us as we close, that thanks be to God that though you were slaves of sin, you became obedient from the heart to that form of teaching to which you were committed, and having been set free, became slaves of righteousness. That's our story, and we want that story to be multiplied in our lives and in the lives of those we touch. So please use us to that end, I pray, in Christ's name. Amen. Taylors, thank you for opening up your homes. And